Hello, happy Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on if you're a hybrid munchkin. Welcome back to Math, you guys. Today we are going to be breaking out those rulers and starting to measure using our inches. Before we start, there's a couple vocab words to talk about. One is height, and that means how tall something is from the top all the way to the bottom. So for example, you can measure how tall you are, what your height is. So somebody says, Jordan, what is your height? Then you would say how tall you are, okay? And then we also want to talk about the nearest inch. And what they mean when they say nearest inch is the inch that the measurement is closest to. So if I'm measuring something with my ruler and it comes to right here, okay, where I'm between the 1 and the 2, I would say it's nearest to 2 inches because that's what it's closest to. It's closer to 2 inches than it is to 1 inch, okay? And we'll look at our rulers some more today. Let's go watch our visual learning video to learn more.
You can measure the length and height of an object in inches. An inch is a standard unit of measure. That means 1 inch is the same length on every ruler. To measure the length or height of an object, start from the left side of the ruler, where 0 would be. Next, measure to the nearest inch. Look for the halfway mark. What is the length of the eraser to the nearest inch?
Select your answer.
I'm looking at the little red dot at the very tippity top to show me where the eraser is marking on the ruler, and it is much closer to 2 inches than it is to 1 inch. So I'm going to say 2 inches.
It is longer than the halfway mark, so use the greater number. The eraser is about 2 inches long. If the object is shorter than the halfway mark, use the smaller number. What is the length of the pine cone to the nearest inch?
Select your answer.
Again, I'm looking at the red line at the top to show me where the pine cone is stopping on the ruler. And I can see that it's after 1 inch, but it's before the halfway mark that they're showing me. So that means that it's closer to 1 inch than it is to 2 inches. So I'm going to say 1 inch.
The pine cone is shorter than the halfway mark, so it is about 1 inch long. You have learned how to measure the length and height of objects to the nearest inch.
Okay, let's do some practice in our workbooks. We are going to be on page 700 in our workbooks, so go ahead and pause me if you need to get your workbook and turn to page 700 and grab a pencil. And then we're going to do these 2 guided practice problems together. So it says, estimate the height or length of each object, then use a ruler to measure. So we are going to make an estimate, just like we did yesterday, and then we're also going to use a ruler. Now, really quickly, friends, I want to talk to you guys about rulers. You may have a ruler at home. This is what it should look like. Yours might be a different color, it might not be wood like mine, but you might have a ruler at home. If you do, that's fantastic. I would definitely pause me and go grab it so that way you can use it. If you don't have a ruler, you have a couple choices. I am going to share a document with you, and it's going to be a ruler on a piece of paper that you can use on your computer, or you can print it off. Either way is totally fine. It looks like this if you print it, and so you can use this just like I would use mine. If you notice, they're almost exactly the same size. So if you use this, you'll still be getting the correct answers with your measurements. If you can't print it, that's also completely fine. Let me show you what that looks like if you don't print it. So if you don't print it, it's going to look like this when you open it up, and it's the same thing, but the only problem with using it on your computer is that it is a little bit too small. So if you see these numbers up here at the top of my screen, if you can type in 118 and then hit enter, it will make your paper the perfect size where it is the correct size for a ruler. Okay, now using it on your computer will be a little bit tricky because it does have to go across the screen, so I can't see everything perfectly, but it's still better than not using a ruler at all. Okay, just make sure that when you open it, it'll look like this, which is a little bit too small. So if you can, go up to the top and change it to say 118 and then hit the enter button. And now it's almost the perfect size for your ruler, okay? So if you're gonna use this one, I would use the numbers at 118, so it's correct. If you're gonna use the paper version, you can just print it out, that's totally fine. And of course, your best choice would be to use an actual ruler, but use whatever you have, okay? Let's do those practice problems. So to measure the notepad, I'm gonna estimate, and you probably don't have a notepad like this at home, but you can always use your notebook that we've given you, either the composition one or your little journal that you use for ELA. Either one is totally fine. You could even use a book, like if it's a journal and it's got pages in it that you write on, that would be a good choice too. I know it's a little tricky, you guys, because we're not in school, but we have lots of things that we can use at home that are similar, okay? So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking that if I had paper clips, which I know each paper clip is about 1 foot long, or not 1 foot long, 1 inch long, I could probably stack up quite a few of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, probably like 11 or 12 inches tall maybe. So I'm gonna estimate, I'm gonna say mine is about, they said 12, but mine is a little bit shorter. So I'm gonna say mine's about 11 inches tall. That's my height of my notepad. And then if I actually measure it with my ruler, I need to put the part with no number on it, which would be 0. I need to put that at the very bottom, and I need to line it up. Okay. And then I'm going to see where it stops on my ruler. Mine stops at almost exactly 11 inches. So if I measure it, then I would say that the height is 11 inches. Okay, now they want us to measure the length of a pencil case. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have a pencil case at home. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna estimate my pencil instead, because that's almost probably about the same as a pencil case, right? If you do have a pencil case, feel free to go grab it. So I'm looking at this, I'm estimating, let's see, if I was measuring this with paper clips or inches, I'd say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 inches long. So I'm going to say that my pencil is about 7 inches long. And then if I actually measure it with my ruler, I'm going to take it and I'm going to put my pencil, I'm going to put the eraser down here so it lines up with the edge, and then I'm going to look and see where it stops. Now my pencil is more than 7 inches, but it's way less than 8. So I'm going to say that the nearest inch is 7 inches. So it's about 7 inches. Look at that. I got my estimate. My estimate was right, which is awesome. Let's go watch one more quick video.
When measuring the length and height of objects, we can use inches.
Wait, let's put out our ruler first so we can see how this works.
Great idea, Daniel. So we have our ruler, and to measure anything, we first have to start at 0. And if we want to measure to the nearest inch, we look at the halfway mark.
And that's where the mark is. Right in the middle between the inches, right?
Yep. And if the object is longer than the halfway mark, use the greater number. This juice box has a height of about 5 inches.
Let me guess. And if it's shorter than the halfway mark, then we use the lesser number?
Exactly, Daniel. This pencil is about 4 inches long. Oh, and here's one more important thing. When you measure, you always want to start with 0, never with the beginning of the ruler.
Good to know. You really know your stuff. Thanks for this.
Okay, let's do some more practice. Let's go ahead and turn that page. We're going to do number 3 together. It says estimate the height or length of each object, then use a ruler to measure it. So it says they want us to measure our book bag, the length of it. So if I estimate my backpack, let's see, let me grab my backpack. I know you guys probably have one at home somewhere that you can use too. If I look at my backpack and think about how what the length is of it from side to side, well, it's a little bit bigger than a book, but it's not like a full yard, right? So I'd say it's about 12, maybe like 14 inches for mine, because it's a little bit more than a foot, which is 12 inches. So I'm going to say it's about 14 inches. That's my estimate. I'm gonna write 14 inches. And then I'm gonna use my ruler to actually measure it. So let's see. And this is a little tricky with a backpack, so just do your best. Let's start here. Oh, it was closer to a foot. Yeah, so it's about 12 inches. So I was a little off with my estimate, but that's okay. So I'm gonna say 12 inches. I want you to do number 4. I know that you probably don't have a paintbrush at home, and that's completely fine, but you can estimate about how long you think a paintbrush is. It's probably about the same size as your pencil. So if you don't have a paintbrush, feel free to use your pencil and estimate the length first, and then measure it with your ruler and write those down. So pause me, do that, and then we'll come back and chat. Okay, let's see. So I don't have a paintbrush at home either, so I'm just gonna use my pencil. I know that my pencil, I'm gonna say it's about 7 inches long, which I know a lot of my paintbrushes that I have like in the classroom are about this length too. So I'm gonna say it's about 7 inches. And I actually already measured my pencil on the last page, and I knew it was almost exactly 7 inches. So when I used my ruler, it was about 7 inches too. Let's do number 6 together. So it says the length of a crayon box. So we're doing the length of a crayon box. Now, I don't have my crayons here at home. They're actually all at school, but I do have some colored pencils. So I'm just gonna use my colored pencils. If I look at the length, well, I know it's a little bit more than maybe 3 inches. So I'm gonna say it's about 4 inches long. And you can get your crayon box or a different box of something and measure it too. Make an estimate. And then I'm gonna measure, let's see. So I'm gonna put it at 0. Ooh, it is a little bit past the halfway mark between 3 and 4. So since it's past the halfway mark, it means it's closer to 4 inches than 3 inches. So it is about 4 inches. Let's go down to number 7. So it says, think about how to use a ruler to solve each problem. Jason measures an object. The object is just shorter than the halfway mark between 8 and 9 on his inch ruler. How long is the object? So I want you to look at your rulers, and you're going to solve this problem. If his object is a little bit less, a little bit shorter than the halfway mark between 8 and 9 inches, would you say that it's 8 inches or 9 inches if you're measuring to the closest inch? Take a second, answer, and then we'll chat. What did you pick? Did you pick 8 or 9? We would say it's 8 inches, because if it's closer to 8, because it's shorter than this halfway mark, if it's closer to 8, then we would say it's 8 inches. So we should say it's about 8 inches long. Pretty easy. We're going to turn the page and do 2 more quick problems. It says, Pam says that each cherry is about 1 inch wide. Is she correct? Well, guess what? We need to break out our rulers. So I'm going to grab my ruler, and I'm actually going to hold it up to my screen, and I'm going to measure it. Are you measuring yours? So I don't know about you guys, but on my paper, my cherry is about, well, it's further than the halfway mark between 0 and 1 inches. Is that where yours at? I bet it is. So what would we say? Would we say it's 0 inches? No. We would say it's about 1 inch, wouldn't we? Because it's shorter than 1 inch, but if we're measuring to the nearest inch, then we would say it's 1 inch. So let's write this out. We can say yes, because she is correct. Yes, the cherry is wider than the halfway mark between 0 and 1 inch. Yeah, and that's it. And then I want us to look at number 10. You're going to do this one, but let's read it first. Find an object in the classroom that measures about 6 inches. So of course you can do this at home. Find an object that you think is about 6 inches long or 6 inches tall. Okay. And then I want you to write a sentence to describe the object using the words estimate and inches. Okay, so take a couple minutes, go find an object, and then write out your sentence, and then we'll come back and we will chat. Okay. Did you do it? You're done? So let's see. Okay, so I found a pen. So this is what I said. I said, I estimate that my pen is about 6 inches long. Okay, see how I used estimate and estimate, and I use the word inches because we're practicing our vocabulary. And if I measure it with my ruler, check this out. If I put it at the 0 line, not the end of the ruler, because some rulers, they don't go all the way to the end. So you got to line it up with that line at the end. It's almost exactly to the 6-inch line. So it's perfect. Let's look at your homework. Okay, so here's your homework. In the workbook on page 701, I want you to do problems 5, 8, 11, and 12, and then do your quick check. And then after that, do whatever your teacher has told you for Math Facts Pro and iReady. I will see you all back here again tomorrow for a brand new math lesson. Bye, friends.